Paris, thank you. In 2014, Chicago saw homicides hit a historic low of 426, but the city has exceeded that number every year since, and it is on pace to again do so this calendar year by more than 80%, according to the U.S. Attorney. Amanda Venicky joins us now with input from some of the top figures in Chicago's criminal justice field on how to reverse this deadly trend. Amanda.
Yes, Brandis, those statistics are sobering. There's no question. Less clarity, however, on what is causing that surge and what can be done about it. Getting to the heart of those questions was the center of a federal government hearing held here. It was a U.S. Senate hearing that is held in Chicago, and specifically centering on the answer to the question, what can the federal government do to intervene? Illinois senior U.S. Senator Dick Durbin chairs that committee, honing in on straw gun purchases. And that's really when someone buys a gun for somebody else, that person typically somebody who is not legally allowed to own a gun.
I'm told that many times the U.S. Attorney's Office doesn't prosecute these crimes because the penalties are so low and they're just taken as bookkeeping violations. Explain to me your attitude toward that and what you've done about it.
Certainly, we in our office and in other offices across the country, we view straw purchasing as a serious crime. There are challenges sometimes to being able to prove those cases. Oftentimes, straw purchasing, it is making a false statement on a form that, at a federal firearms licensee.
U.S. Attorney for the Northern District of Illinois, John Lausch, says that when his agents are able to prosecute, they do so. And he says that that is important when it comes to gun straw purchases or other federal crimes. It was a point that he repeatedly stressed, honing in on a recent case in which 13 individuals were charged.
We allege 19 murders, 19 attempted murders in that particular case. This just came out recently. We are already hearing feedback from our local law enforcement partners that is having a positive impact in the community. Members of the community see that we are doing something to hold people accountable for murders, and also it is having a deterrent effect of people not wanting to be the next person to get charged federally. So it is resource intensive. It is something we keep our eye on all the time, but it's important that we do organizational cases like that.
Now, Chicago is home to one of 5 national strike forces on gun trafficking. When pressed, Lausch shared that the federal government did not, however, send any additional money or agents for that task force. Lausch downplayed it, saying that he's constantly shifting resources. But Chicago Police Superintendent David Brown says he very much wants more federal law enforcement sent to Chicago.
An additional fully funded FBI, DEA, and Homeland Security investigations task force officers would be invaluable to the levels that LAPD and NYPD have. Chicago falls far short for their TFOs in those federal task forces. We need federal help on the ground for large-scale efforts to take down the criminal networks driving violence.
Now, as for what is causing the increase in crime in Chicago and other cities throughout the nation, the Heritage Foundation's Amy Swearer says part of that blame falls on progressive prosecutors. At Durbin's urging, she did not get into the specifics about policies of Cook County State's Attorney Kim Foxx. Durbin said that that would have been inappropriate given that Foxx was not there. She hadn't been invited. Now, Swearer also says that surge related to COVID.
It's because millions of Americans suddenly lost their livelihoods, or had their livelihoods ripped out from under them, had their vital social networks disrupted, had all manner of serious stressors inflicted on them over an extended period of time. It's because the police departments across this nation had abruptly changed the ways in which they deploy their resources, in which they responded to service calls and interacted with civilians. It's because certain prosecutors can't be bothered to pursue criminal charges.
The University of Chicago's crime lab leader says it differently. Rosanna Ander says that there is a gulf in where violence is occurring, and it is primarily in neighborhoods that have been long disinvested in, primarily those where there are a majority of Black and brown residents. And she says that this is not just a general violence problem. In particular, it is one involving guns. And contrary to popular belief, she says that most murders are not planned or premeditated.
But in fact, a huge share of murders in the United States are not motivated by money or robberies or wars between gangs or crews over drug turf. They're very often the result of an argument that spins out of control. Here in Chicago, fully 3/4 of shootings stem from an altercation that happens to take place within reach of a gun. That means that one way to reduce gun violence is to make those situations in which those arguments occur more forgiving.
And the best way to do that, she says, is less illegal guns. She says that the crime lab estimates that Chicago saw an 100% increase last year in the number of illegal guns being carried on city streets. Now, however, getting federal gun changes through Congress, that is a major political hurdle. Senator Durbin says he hopes one plan will be less controversial, and that is his proposal that would crack down on ghost guns. These are the guns that are made of parts that don't have any serial numbers, which makes them more difficult to trace. Also, he says, hoping that the Build Back Better plan does get passed and signed into law by the president, because that would send more money to cities like Chicago for violence interruption. Now, meanwhile, a challenge that Chicago's police force is facing, the superintendent says, that is recruiting. He says that it is particularly difficult due to low morale, and also, he says, because it is a particularly dangerous time to be a police officer. Brandis, back to you.
Amanda, thank you.